I'm also, and on this one I'm going to be 100% sure, I'm going to say you're probably not a sponge or a crab or a squid that likes to play the clarinet, and you may well have enjoyed SpongeBob in your childhood, or maybe even now, because I think we all do, and you've watched that show. So even if you aren't disabled, even if you aren't LGBT, please watch this show. It is completely worth your time. Hey guys, what's going on? Today I'm going to be giving you a disabled person's perspective and review of the new Netflix show by Ryan O'Connell called Special. So let's get into it. Yes, that's right. Today I'm going to be reviewing a show which I had been waiting for quite a little while, and I'm so glad it's finally come out on Netflix. To give it the time of day, they've given it a lot of promotion, and it is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to give you a little bit of an explanation of what the show is about, and then I'm going to talk about everything I loved about it. A couple of things that maybe could have been better or could have changed in my opinion, and then that'll be it, so let's do it. So Special is a show by a guy called Ryan O'Connell. I think he's written it as a bit of a memoir. It's somewhat autobiographical of his life. He is a guy, I think he's about 27 or 28 in the show, definitely late 20s. He does say in one of the episodes, but I've completely forgotten. And he has cerebral palsy, which I can barely say. It's up there with my disability, peripheral neuropathy, complete nightmare. And the show is about him getting an intern job at a company called Egg Woke, which seemed to be incredibly similar to BuzzFeed or that kind of website where they post kind of out there articles, and he gets a job there. But in the first episode, and this isn't a spoiler because it's basically in the trailer, he gets hit by a car, and when the people at Egg Woke find out he got hit by a car, they assume that that is why he has his limp and the troubles with his hands. And he just tells them, yeah, that's exactly why. It was because I got hit by a car, because he doesn't want to admit he is disabled. That's something we've talked about on this channel in the past, and I've talked to a lot of you about the struggle of admitting you are disabled. He's also gay, and a big part of the series is his discovering his sort of gay sexuality alongside his disability, which is something he's struggled with. So all in all, you might be thinking, well, that sounds very niche, that sounds very specific, I don't know if it's going to be for me. But here's the thing, if you're watching this review now and you're considering watching it, you've seen the trailer, you think it looks good, but you're not sure if you are perhaps allowed to watch it because you aren't gay or you aren't LGBT or you aren't disabled, I just want to say right now, go and watch it. I'm pretty sure you're probably not a policeman, but you've watched police dramas in the past. I'm pretty sure you're probably not a meth-making chemistry teacher trying to pay their cancer bills, but you probably love Breaking Bad. I'm also, and on this one I'm going to be 100% sure, I'm going to say you're probably not a sponge or a crab or a squid that likes to play the clarinet, and you may well have enjoyed SpongeBob in your childhood, or maybe even now, because I think we all do. And you've watched that show, so even if you aren't disabled, even if you aren't LGBT, please watch this show. It is completely worth your time. So now I want to talk about the things I loved about this show. Just quickly, I will say I have something called Charcot-Marie tooth disease, so it's degenerative. When I was in my early 20s, I was at the stage where I could walk, I had independence, but I was in pain, and as things have gone on, I'm now a wheelchair user pretty much full time. I can use crutches every now and again, but I'm in a lot of pain. I take heavy painkillers, etc, etc. There'll be a video up here where I explain my entire disability if you are interested to learn more. But basically, my favourite thing about this show is the real and very accurate light it paints on the everyday life of having a disability. In the very first scene, and again this isn't a spoiler, I'm pretty sure this part was in the trailer, he trips over his own feet because cerebral palsy is muscular incoordination. That is one of the main symptoms. And a kid says, hey mister, you're walking funny, you need to go to the hospital. And he explains what cerebral palsy is, and the kid screams and runs off because he's like freaked out and scared. And I think that's something we've all dealt with, whether it's kids asking or whether it's usually more nosy adults. You know, I don't mind kids asking me what my disability is. They don't understand, and I'm quite happy to explain it to them in layman's terms. But adults ask all the time, and just from the opening, that's like one of the opening scenes, and that hooked me in straight away. And then as the show went on, there were numerous times where other things about disability, major things and minor things, and other things that have happened to me personally happen on the screen in front of me, and to feel so represented, honestly, I was nearly in tears throughout. Even though it's a comedy, there are, you know, drama aspects, there are sad aspects to the show, but even though it's a comedy, even in the funny parts, I was laughing, I was crying. It just feels so good to be represented. You know, you hear this all the time. For example, when Black Panther came out, the black community was so happy to see a show with black main characters who were like good, well-rounded characters, and I'm getting the same vibe from this. To be disabled, to see this this sort of stuff in a show, on Netflix no less, and the fact that Netflix are actually pushing it and promoting it as much as they have any other show is a huge thing, and I'm so glad. In one part of the show, he talks about how, because he has cerebral palsy and it's somewhat of a mild case, he doesn't feel like he can really be part of the disabled crowd. I think we all have dealt with that, not being able to feel we need to prove ourselves even to other people, not just to the government when it comes to like benefits and stuff like that, but the fact that we always feel like we need to prove ourselves as disabled, even though if we say we're disabled, that should be it. But it's kind of internalized ableism, if you like. That is also something which is talked about in the show, which I think is a huge thing that we always deal with, because ableism is just everywhere in this world, and it's very easily to get that into your own mindset and to say, well, I'm not disabled, and just denying that you are disabled. And I talked about that in much more depth in my last video. If you want to check that out, it'll be up in the cards. But I think that's something we've all dealt with, and I was so happy to see it dealt with in a show like this. I just want to come away from the talking about the disability side of it, because obviously though that is a huge part of the show, you know, I've gushed about that as much as I can. I could literally talk all day and all week about all the fantastic parts, minor and major, that are about disability in this show and why it is worth your time if you are disabled. But I just want to do a general review as well really quickly. First off, again, if you're on the fence about watching this, every episode is 15 minutes or less or thereabouts, so it's really short episodes. It isn't a huge commitment. Honestly, I knew I was going to enjoy the show from the trailer. I knew it was about disability and it was going to be something I would be interested in anyway, but I thought the other night at about midnight, I thought, I'll watch the first one now and then, you know, I'll watch the rest of it tomorrow. I sat for 2 hours and watched the entire series. Might not even have been 2 hours, I can't quite remember the runtime, but you know, every episode is 15 minutes and every single one hooks you in. Every single episode has a good story, it has a good storyline, it flows really well. Each memoir is titled about, I think, an autobiographical sort of thing that has happened in his life anyway. So, you know, it's a short show and I think it is well worth your time regardless. Again, if you're not disabled, if you're not LGBT, you should still give it a go, because it's a short show anyway, it's worth a try, and honestly, if you try it, I think you will love it. Secondly, the humour is fantastic. If you're in your 20s, millennial humour is pretty much the entirety of this show. Even if you're not, I think you'll get the majority of what's being talked about. But I found myself in complete stitches. The characters in this, outside of Ryan's character, are just fantastic. For example, you've got Olivia the boss, who is just completely up herself, completely like diet crazy. I think we've all met somebody like Olivia, especially perhaps working in an office. She is incredible. Another aspect of the show which may interest you is there is a character called Kim in the show who is Ryan's best friend. She is a plus size lady who writes for Egg Woke in the show, and she writes about being confident and being, you know, just yourself and loving who you are. And that was amazing to see. Again, it's not something you see in every TV show you watch. A larger woman, a plus-size woman who is happy with who she is, and whose character isn't just that she is a plus-size woman and that's all she talked about. Because although Kim in the show is that, and she writes these articles, and her sort of brand, which is mentioned in the show, is loving herself and just being who you are and not caring what other people think, she still has moments in the show where she shows weakness, where she shows that she isn't always positive all the time. Again, that's something I'm big on here. It's something we've talked about before and you guys have agreed with me with, that you shouldn't always be positive all the time. There should always be moments where you can be sad and when you can admit your weaknesses. And to see a well-rounded character like that, again, I think is not something you see. Everything on TV is rose-tinted glasses and pretty and nothing bad. But this, you know, her character is incredible. Not only that, but she's hilarious. She is a great supporting character for Ryan, the main character, and I absolutely loved her. And assuming this gets a second season, I cannot wait to see more of her. Another main character that I absolutely loved, and the way it was written, I absolutely loved in this show, is Ryan's mum, whose name escapes me right now, but she's played by the lady that plays Susan in Friends. And at the start of the show, Ryan lives with her. He's 28, 29, 27 again, I can't quite remember. And the way he's written that parent-disabled child relationship, where she doesn't want to let him go and be independent because she's so used to caring for him. And, you know, he wants to go off and live his own life, but it is going to be a struggle because he's been reliant on his parent to look after him, and he's lived at home for so long, you know. And just the way that was written, I'm not going to talk about spoilers, so I can't go completely into it, but just, I think people who with a disability, who've lived with their parents, especially if they've lived with it outside of what some people might conceive as normal, which is obviously bollocks, there is no normal age in my opinion, but if you live with your parents into your 20s or as an adult, I think you'll understand the sort of dynamic that he's written there, and I really like that. So I think that's been a quick sum up of why it's good if you're disabled, why it's good if you're LGBT, and why you should watch it even if you're not, and a quick review of all the characters. I don't want this to be a huge video, but what I do want to do is talk about the biggest criticism I'm seeing of this show in all the comment sections on the normie pages, on Netflix, on like Unilad and stuff like that have shared it. And the top comment is always from some Republican saying, I don't need any of this virtue signaling bullshit. I don't need to see gay people on my screen. I don't need to see LGBT people on my screen. You're just pandering to us. You're just writing this stuff. It's bull. It's virtue signaling. Blah 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 blah. And here's the thing, and I've said this in discussions which would have turned into arguments, but I tend to just block people. I don't like arguing on the internet. I get sucked in. It's pointless. But the top thing I comment on this is not only is this show about a gay character who has written it himself. Ryan O'Connell wrote this show somewhat autobiographically, I believe. I'm sure there are things that didn't actually happen in his life, as is with every biopic-esque TV show and film, but he wrote this about his life, and big things in his life were coming out as gay, living as gay, and living as gay with a disability and being disabled and admitting to his disability. So this is not virtue signaling, it is literally a true story about Ryan O'Connell's life. And he wrote it himself. The guy that wrote it plays the main character. So if you're seeing this and thinking, oh no, because there are absolutely, and even I will admit, there are TV shows and there are books, J.K. Rowling, and there are people who just shoehorn LGBT related things into their stories to try and pull in that audience. And I don't like that. It's obviously just done. Like, for example, I'll go back to J.K. Rowling again. If she wasn't brave enough to write the characters were gay or within the sort of LGBT community, whatever, in the original books, then coming out on Twitter now and saying, oh well, as it happens, this character is actually gay. So even though there's no mention of that in the book, she's just doing it to try and pull people in. It's pandering, I don't like it, it's unnecessary. What I'm seeing people here is saying is closed-minded stuff, like they aren't giving it a chance. If you take the time to watch the trailer, I'm pretty sure it kind of explains that he is autobiographical and the guy that wrote it is actually playing the main character. So I don't think you can say that this was made to pander to people who, in the disabled community and the LGBT community, because it's a true story and he wrote it about his life, and therefore I feel that everything he's written about is truly authentic because he has dealt with it before. Again, I don't doubt that some things were exaggerated, some things may not have happened to him, as is true with any story. I don't think anybody's life is 24/7 an interesting TV show or film, but what he's done with this is fantastic. So I think that's kind of everything I wanted to say. I don't want this to end up being a 20-minute video as my other videos have been in the past. I just really wanted to make a video and tell you guys to watch this. If you're a subscriber of mine, I think there is a likely chance that you or someone you know is disabled, and I think you will find something to love in this show. I'll say it again for the people at the back, even if you aren't disabled, even if you aren't LGBT, please watch this series anyway. And if you don't think you will watch it or you're curious, please just add it to your list on Netflix, because as far as I'm aware, if you add it to your list on Netflix, that shows that people are interested and that has more chance of getting a second season, or at least Ryan being able to write another show which could be in the same vein, because I really think it needs it. I think you could see that there must have been some pushback somewhere because they're only 15-minute episodes. I'm not sure that's what Ryan planned. I was reading through a Q&A with him the other day where he said that if we get longer episodes, I would love to do this, I would love to do that, so that insinuated that maybe he was aiming to get bigger episodes. You might notice when you watch it there was a hell of a lot of placement from Microsoft, which ordinarily I don't like to see so much product placement, but I understand that's how shows get made. I think maybe you would have struggled to get the show or the money to make the show without it, so it is understandable. But if we can really rally behind this, if we can get on Twitter, we can get on Instagram, we can get on Facebook, tag Netflix, tell them you love it, add it to your list on Netflix, watch it more than once if you want, it's well worth it. I've watched it 3 full times through now and absolutely love it. Let Netflix know that we love it, so that hopefully they'll make more shows with Ryan, and in general they will make more shows with disability. There are millions of people in the world with disability, and you don't have to be disabled to enjoy a sitcom about somebody who is disabled, so please show your interest and get more people to see this show. Anyway, I think that just about does it. I could gush for hours. Sorry if it's been rambly. I'm just so excited to see this. Like I said, it had me in tears just to be represented on the screen as a disabled character by a guy who is disabled playing a disabled character, which I always think is the way things should be. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I hope you've liked it. If you have, hit like, it'll help way more people see the video. I would also really appreciate it if you could share this video with your disabled friends, if you have any, or just with your friends in general. I really want everybody to see this show. It will be great for non-disabled people as well. So please go down and get the link, share it on your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Even if you don't want to share my video, just go and talk about the show itself and share that from Netflix. Get people to watch it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post at least one video a week on a Friday, but every now and again I do videos like this, which is a midweek video when there's something I'm particularly excited about. And if you click the little bell, you get a notification every single time I post. And as always, my social networks, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. are in the links below and in the end card. And I post behind the scenes stuff on my stories. I post a lot of disability related posts and blog-esque posts on my Facebook and Instagram, so be sure to check them out. Sorry I've talked 200 miles an hour in this video. I've really tried not to, but I appreciate you watching nonetheless. Have a great day, guys. Bye!